Hi there, Kate Bora and Fiona Pearman, joining you for this week's live, where we're continuing our conversation around confidence commitment. And today we want to dig into how individuals can really wrap their head around their relationship with discipline and do this really well. Because we know that taking small, consistent acts of confidence is the magic when it comes to achieving your goals in career and life. I think we've talked a little bit around how a lot of us have stuff, right, around discipline, and almost reject the idea of it. Um, but what we know is that you create more freedom when you have structure and discipline. So let's have a conversation around how do you go about doing this in a way that feels easy, flowful, and importantly, that we're able to do it consistently over time. And the first place to start is to break tasks into small, manageable chunks. One of the things that we do when we are walking away from all workshops that we run is we ask people to get really clear on what's their 2 or 3 action steps. You know, that's step 1, step 2. The clearer you are about the action that you need to take, the easier it will be to follow through. If we're unclear or the action is ambiguous, in our experience, what happens is when it comes time to take action, we end up procrastinating because we're actually unclear of what it is that I need to do, right? The action step I need to take. And that's when all sorts of things, stories, fears can jump in and stop us from taking action. So, our ability to get clear about the small, manageable actions that we need to take means that when it comes time, right, when I've made the commitment, I've got time to follow through, all that I have to do is pick up that phone, make that call, have that conversation. I don't have to think about what I'm going to say, for example.
Yeah, a big part of this is to make sure that our commitments are visible and structural as possible. This puts the frame around why the discipline's important. It allows us to think about what we're going to need to prioritize and the way in which we're going to do that. And it allows us to kind of visually see it. So this is the things where our calendars includes blocks of time for specific things. Maybe it's preparation in service of a meeting we're going to or a deliverable we're doing for a project. We have reminders that go out. When we're running programs, we remind people of checking in, of doing things. We give them reminder cards sometimes that means they can actually carry around with them. These are my 3 or 4 things I'm focused on in this part of the cycle, and this is what I'm going to check in with my leader with. We make sure that scheduled check-ins are booked, and then we have some debrief conversations and moments to reflect. It was really lovely to be on a call in the last couple of weeks with we'd done a workshop, 1 day workshop, and then we brought the people back into a room and to hear the ways in which they'd followed through on their action simply because they'd put it in their diary. It now became something I was committed to doing. They showed up, and then the beautiful way in which they said, I didn't think I would do that. I'm not the sort of person who normally speaks up in a meeting. I don't normally contribute in that way, but because it was an action step that was embedded in the way they were going to behave, they did do something and it was easier than they'd expected.
Yeah, I think taking action and consistently taking action is the gold. I think we tend to think about the big things that I need to do. But what we know is consistency is more important than intensity, right? A little progress, 1 centimeter each day adds up to 30 centimeters over 30 days. And so we've just talked about having systems. Habits are an incredibly valuable resource for you when we think about discipline. There's a great book called Tiny Habits that I love that very much talks about what's the small thing. In fact, they talk about make the commitment to, the 1 push-up or the 1 minute of reflection on your day or whatever it is so that it's easy to say yes to, right? And if we do that every day, then that all adds up over time. I think there's lots of great resources around habits and habit stacking. The Power of Habit is a great book. Atomic Habits. I've read all of them because I've been very curious about how I set this up in my own life. And so that I can make it really easy for me to hold the discipline because I am someone who naturally either will get busy or will resist discipline or find it hard to say yes to some things, particularly when other priorities can get in the way or will be perceived more important than some of the other commitments I've made. So there is gold here in starting to figure out, I often say, your own operating rhythm, your natural style, and leveraging structures, rhythms, routines, habits to make this as easy as possible.
And when we do that and we remove distractions, then we create the space and time to actually follow through, to do what needs to be done. I mean, these devices, we've all got them, we have them with us all the time. They are just distraction on steroids. They are constantly pinging, reminding, messaging, taking us off in certain directions. And look, there is some convenience there that's important, but being mindful that this stuff derails us all the time. And it means it's hard to get back in the zone of doing the great work, of being in flow, of being able to contribute at the best we can. So being someone who is able to remove distractions or at least put them to the side for concentrated pieces or when we're in meeting or dialogue with other people, it makes us so much more available. It makes it easier to do the work well. And it means that we are someone who can be present. And that's really important when we think about our interactions with others.
Yeah, I think um, we know that sometimes this asks a lot of us, right? And, if we're running on an empty tank, if we're burnout, we're stressed, we don't have a lot of resource. We don't want to be relying on willpower, right? Because we know that tank gets empty. And it's hard for us to say yes to, our commitments when we're feeling stress resource, right? When we're not feeling very resourced. So prioritizing self-care, sleep, exercise, connection, all those sorts of things to protect our energy means that when we come up against the tension or the discomfort, when it feels hard, when we want to resist, when we want to say no, not now, or we want to say I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it next week, or I'll do it next month, right? When those thoughts inevitably will jump into our mind, right? Because we're all human, we will be more resourced to be able to either meet that discomfort and say yes, even when we don't feel like we want to, right? Follow through on our discipline, or get real with ourselves and have a constructive conversation around what is it that I need to do differently here, and tweak our approach so that it is going to feel more sustainable. I think one of the things I talk about a lot is sustainable behavior change. And that's why our ability to be able to be present to the discomfort of maybe letting ourselves down or not getting things right or not being consistent. And that can feel sometimes a bit like we're failing, and some of us will have shame around that. To be present to that and go, okay, what's going on for me? And tweak your approach and be willing to go again, right? To have the courage to go, I'm going to stay with this.
I think finally, here, we want you to make sure that you're holding your accountability, that you are embedding the self-trust that discipline offers us. Our accountability circles, peers, friends, we know that the stickability of new behaviors is far greater when we do it in the company of others. It's why our programs are so effective and have such incredible outcomes, because when we're doing this with like-minded people, we're more likely to stay with it and to take action. Sometimes this will mean that we're doing things differently in the past. If you've been someone who's kind of let things slide, if you haven't been so great with discipline, and then you start doing this, you build your habits and your routines, and you start showing up differently, that's almost like a new identity. And that can feel a little bit dissonant for yourself, but it can also be a bit jarring for others. So again, that self-care, nurturing, looking after ourselves as we're taking new behaviors. And then kind of honoring that, I'm now someone who can rely on myself. I can trust myself. I am someone who follows through, and being able to celebrate that.
We're going to leave it there. If you've enjoyed today's confidence conversation, we'd love for you to share it with anyone in your network who you think would find it valuable. If you'd like to hear more of videos in this series or any of the other 400 videos over on our YouTube channel, head over there. You can access lots of different content, playlists, including these ones. And if and when you're ready to go deeper with your relationship with core confidence, visit our website, coreconfidence.com.au. Thanks for tuning in today. Don't forget to hit subscribe on your YouTube channel for more insights on confidence, leadership, and complex work environments. We drop new videos regularly and we'd love to share them with you.